U ovim trenucima u Kijevu pozdravljam Fedora Grečaninova, glavnog strateškog direktora Media Grupe Ukrajina. Fedor, good day. Good day. I don't know if that's the greeting. What is the situation now from where you're from, that is southwestern suburb of Kiev?
Yes, well, it's silent here at the moment, but we heard explosions earlier, and we heard heavy explosions yesterday. So the situation is changing.
For you personally, you know, I was, you know, yesterday morning for me, who is in Croatia, I was completely shocked. Did you, at your wildest thoughts, thought that this could happen?
You know, we thought that the escalation of the conflict could have happened, but you are not actually really ready for that. Mm-hmm. And when you wake up in the morning because of explosions outside in your city, well, this is the kind of experience you probably do not have.
Talking about this and talking about another war which led to this one, and this was disinformation, hybrid warfare, what was coming out of Kremlin propaganda. How did you see this huge machine being, you know, activated towards this insane goal?
Oh, of course. If you do something like that, even if you're pretty much crazy, you do not want to look bad, so you try to find a good excuse and to demonstrate this good excuse to your own citizens as well as to the international society. And well, I think that they did a pretty bad job, because when they accuse Ukrainians of being Nazis, our key values are freedom and dignity. I think that freedom and dignity are so far from the idea of Nazi that probably this is kind of the worst explanation they could find. Although at the same time, they do not hide their real intentions and their real interests. So they say that they do not want NATO to be expanding further to east. So either you have to surrender, or we call you Nazi and we attack you. Well, and unfortunately, a lot of people in the West, they somehow tolerate this thing, still tolerate this thing.
Still, because we saw what happened in Brussels with reluctance of some states with the sanctions. We see scenes from the Kiev streets. We saw buildings destroyed this morning during the night. We see cars, people fleeing outside the city. Some of your colleagues also, we talked to, they're on their way to Slovakian border, to Polish border. For you personally, your sentiment seeing this, what you're thinking, what's your plan?
Oh, my plan. Well, I have a big family, so I decided that we all decided that we have to stay together in these during these hard times, and we go through these times together. So we are not going to move anywhere. We're staying here. And yes, it means a certain level of danger, and we do realize that on one hand. On the other hand, we also understand that if the whole city of Kiev suddenly would like to start moving west, it would cause no good to anyone because the road infrastructure is just not prepared for that. And the third consideration is, well, this is our home, this is our land. And yes, we might be scared, as people probably should be scared during the war, when the enemy is approaching. And the enemy is, just yesterday we saw planes and helicopters flying around, and we heard this explosion. I mean, yes, you are scared. If not for yourself, then for your relatives, for your children. But again, I mean, this is our land, and if we just does our enemy want us to be scared and to panic and to run away? Yes, they do. So probably this is not the thing you should do. This is a complex issue, and there is no wrong or right version of what to do. I mean, this is the situation when you personally, and only you personally, decide what is your personal right way to behave in that situation.
My God. Yeah. Looking at last year, it was the year when you, huge Ukrainian production, huge Croatian production, and the Russian colleagues did a series together, which will premiere in Croatia in next 2 weeks. In Croatian, we call it Šutnja, Silence, which was directed by my friend Dalibora Matanića. When you look at that last year, this cooperation, when you hear the word silence in these circumstances, what can you tell us?
Well, actually, when we came to Croatia to see how shooting is going on last year, I think that was April. We had very similar situation to the one we had just now. Russia increased the number of troops on the border tremendously. And about a year ago, that was the first time when we were expecting invasion. We were ready for the invasion. So, of course, we thought a lot about that. This is just kind of thing you do not ignore. You cannot ignore. Well, the Syria we are talking about is about the universal evil, and what might happen if you just prefer not to, or choose not to call the things their name, and if you choose to keep silent because this is something more comfortable for you at the moment. And we can easily find the analogy to what is happening right now to Ukraine and to the rest of the world. I do think that people on the West, they do not fully understand what's going on. This is not a war because of some old territorial dispute or something like that. No. These are two different ideas came together. One is about freedom and human rights and dignity and so on. And another one is about something really different. And the response we see from the West at the moment, it is, well, we think it is too weak because I said politicians and other people who are making the decisions. They have to keep in mind some figures, some risk of inflation, some things like that. I mean, it's okay. But just imagine that during the World War II, Hitler had the nuclear weapon. And this is pretty much the situation we're facing right now. And I think that this threat to the world we see is the thing which we have never seen before. I mean, never ever in the history of the Earth, never in the history of humankind. Because we see one single nation, which is telling other nations that we will do this and that, regardless how much you like it or dislike it. Otherwise, you know, we have the huge nuclear weapon potential. So I'm not saying that West should be immediately involved in the military phase, exactly because of these risks. But speaking about the amount of economic pressure, I mean, what we see at the moment, this is just my personal position, but I believe that a lot of Ukrainians share my view. This is next to nothing what they do. I mean, next to nothing. Well, Russia will suffer economically for how long? For a year, 2 years? Well, they have enough resources. They have enough reserves. Will that stop them? No, no way. This level of sanctions will not stop them from doing whatever they have in mind. And again, of course, if someone thinks that, no, this is not about us, this is just something between Ukraine and Russia, and it's it. They probably have to look again at what Putin told NATO and the United States when he was blackmailing them. That, look, guys, you should do this, and that, and just take a look at what he wants people to do. So, and this is not about Ukraine, because what his requests, they are not about Ukraine at all. So I think that there is still time for Western people to rethink, to revise, look again at the situation, and make the better choices than the ones they have already done.
Fedor, thank you really so much for these thoughts. I don't know what to tell you. If I say take care, it sounds so weak at this point, but do take care. And I hope this message that this is a strong values situation that we have here will reach out to some people. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Juan. And one more sentence.
Please.
We are in a deep crisis, not just Ukraine. Europe and probably the whole world is in a deep crisis. The best thing you should do during the crisis is to bring some new ideas, because this is the time when some bright new ideas might be born, and to take away your lessons. So, because this is not just Putin who is responsible for that, and not Ukraine which is responsible for that. I mean, the whole way how the world is organized allow this to happen. So probably something very deep and serious have to be rethought and revised. Yep. Thank you.
And that needs us, and you need to stay safe. Thank you so much for this, Fedor. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Stay safe.